this to the side. Yeah, I'm not a technical person at all. Well, I'm glad that you could join me today. And I was going through some profiles and I saw your background and I'm like, wow, my husband's a pharmacist.
Oh
So I
yeah.
connect. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going to I'm going to bring him in. And I talked to a lot of people that had run their podcasts for over so many years.
Hmm.
And I've talked to people that have had it for just a year or two. And more recently, I'm talking to people that just started their own podcasts. So I seem to get the balance of what really goes on by talking to the seasoned people because they've forgotten their struggles. They've forgotten what they had to go through, and
Right.
people that I knew, like myself, I'm trying to start a podcast and, which was why I delved into this project. Um, so without wasting much more of your time, let's dive right into your background. Tell me a little about yourself and why you find yourself in this space today.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. Uh, I grew up in healthcare. My mother worked in a hospital. I'm very comfortable in that sort of situation, and I naturally fell into pharmacy. I just loved it from the very beginning. And as I grew in pharmacy, I've done just about everything. I was a staff pharmacist, a clinical pharmacist. Then I went on into management. And when I got to management, I had such a huge satisfaction in my job that I wanted to learn more about it and see if I could take it to the next level. So I went back to graduate school again. I think I've had 11 years of secondary education now, and got my master's in healthcare education and went on to be a vice president of operations at a small hospital and the director of pharmacy. And that was great. I loved it. And after 18 years, my hospital merged with another hospital or was acquired by another hospital. So, like our friend Pat Flynn, I found myself laid off. So I had some extra time on my hands. And while I picked up another job pretty quickly, I missed that administrative piece. My wife is a pediatrician. She works for herself. She's a concierge pediatrician. So I was able to go to her office and do a little bit of that administrative function. And one thing we wanted to do was broaden her footprint. She has a great panel of patients, and she's getting into not only pediatrics, but the wellness side. And as she was doing that, she started making these little 1 and 2 minute videos that she would post on Facebook. And they were very popular, very informative, but we had folks that wanted to hear more. So I wanted to create a YouTube channel for her. And so since I didn't know how to do that, I turned to Google, right, like everybody does, and started searching for how do you start a YouTube channel. And I found this guy, Pat Flynn, talking about that. And he was not only talking about that, but he was also talking about these things called podcast and passive income. And that really sparked my interest. So I've merged my love of healthcare and administration and the desire to help my wife expand her footprint and have a larger presence in the world of medicine. So we ran into this idea of a podcast and putting content out there where her audience could grow, and it would give me an outlet for my administrative duties as well as my love for things technical. I'm not a techie person, but I love learning and I'm always a student. So podcasting was the next big thing for us.
I love Pat Flynn. I think I've
Yes.
watched everything that I followed him long before he started his podcast. And I think he says he took 2 years from the first day that he put out the first one to the next one. It took him 2 years to actually launch and
Right.
do it consistently. But I followed him when he started blogging, and I've learned so much from him. So that's definitely a good place to start. Let me tell me what's your. I'm going to guess your podcast is about wellness,
It
but
is.
do you have a niche in wellness that you focus on?
Not really. Look, our podcast is about giving people the information they need to make healthy choices.
Okay.
So, because my wife is a pediatrician, we naturally have started in the world of how to keep your kids safe and healthy, but it expands into adult wellness and other activities. So, right now, we have some great content out there for uh, families that want to keep their kids healthy. And we're expanding very soon into more adult things. But it really is, um, when you start podcasting, let me put it this way: when you start podcasting, I think the way to be successful is to find something that you're passionate about, and that thing also needs to be helpful to other people. You want to make the world a better place on the internet, right? So that's where we fell into this. Well, how can we help regular mom and dads find products and find services and just everyday habits that can help keep their family healthy? So that's the road we've gone down.
Wow. So tell me, what platform did you choose, and what platforms did you consider before choosing whatever you used to launch your podcast?
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in don't reinvent the wheel. Find something that works,
Okay.
somebody who's been successful, learn from them, and try that first. And that's what I did. And I don't. You'll hear me talk a lot about smart passive income and Pat Flynn, but really that's where I started. He has a free uh, program where you can say where he goes through and says, do this first, then do this, and then do this. And here's how you set up a website to support your podcast. And I just followed that recipe pretty much to the T. So I went down the Buzzsprout road, which he recommends, and it's very easy. They also have great content. They have great instructional videos. So between Pat Flynn and Buzzsprout, they got me up and running pretty quick. So use Buzzsprout, get the equipment that those guys recommend. Now I do have a one. I'm not going to say expensive piece of equipment, but one thing I splurged on, and that is a Rodecaster Pro. That's my mixing board, and I have fairly inexpensive microphones and equipment, except for that one, and I love it. It's made all the difference in the world. So Buzzsprout, the Rode Podcaster Pro mixing board. I use some fairly inexpensive but great quality Samson Q2U microphones. And then I'm on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, and a few others, but those are all spelled out in the program that Pat has. And I have no, while I am a member of the SPI Pro, where you and I met actually, and we do have an affiliation there where we could make money on recommending this. Let me just be honest with you. I will tell everybody about this, whether I make a dime on it or not, because it's just the way to go. If you want to create a podcast, go to smartpassiveincome.com, find the checklist, and just start down that path. And, in about a week, you're going to be up and running.
How long did it take you to get your podcast up and running from the time of inception?
Probably about 2 weeks. It was very fast. Yeah. The hardest part was finding time in our schedule to sit down and actually record the content. In terms of the technical side, it was pretty easy. I just ordered the equipment, got it in 2 days from Amazon, I believe, and yeah, just started. I guess the hardest part for me was building the website. That took me about 3 days.
What's your podcast strategy? Are you doing solo, or do you bring in people, experts to talk to?
Well, we do a husband and wife interview where typically I ask questions to Dr. Jen and she answers those. And we do have some uh, um, interviewees that will be coming on board pretty quickly. We're excited about those. We're going to do some of those remotely through Zoom, and we'll do some here in our little studio. So it's a combination of both, but it's a nice blend. It's something that you can
Sounds.
go anywhere with this,
Mhm. So tell me, how about editing? Most of the people I've talked to, including the seasoned ones, find that to be quite a challenge. Is that something that you struggled with?
That's absolutely the most difficult thing that I had to face was the editing piece. Now, I caught on to Audacity pretty quickly. That's a piece of software that's free, that is easy to use, but it has a few limitations if you want to do multiple microphones at the same time and be able to raise the volume of one person and lower something else. Audacity is great. I've used it for some of our podcasts. You can also use GarageBand, which Pat Flynn recommends. I find that everybody says it's easy to use. It's not. It's not intuitive to me, and I'm an Apple guy. It's an Apple software. I don't love it that much, so I went ahead and spent a little bit of money on Audition, which is the software from Adobe, and there are. It took me about 2 or 3 days to understand it, and I had to ask for help. And if you just get out there and post a question of, hey, does anybody have a good tutorial for Audition? People will come out of left field and say, yeah, you should check this out. It really helped me a lot. So that's what I did, and it works great for me.
Did you have to overcome any other challenges getting started?
Yeah, I had to get used to my own voice on recording. I thought I had a decent voice, and then when you hear it back, you hate it. Everybody does that. So it's kind of funny. You hear all the errors and the mouth sounds and that kind of thing, and you're the only one that recognizes it. But you have to get past that. I don't. Did you have a problem with that at all, or you just feel very natural speaking on the microphone?
You're asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking you. Yeah.
Oh, no. I haven't, I'm a blogger.
Okay.
So most of my work is done in writing.
Okay.
And this is the first time I stepped out to see if I could start a podcast. And being who I am, I have to do all the research,
Sure.
talk to as many people as I can, get information. My blog actually discusses the various models for online business. And so I'm always interested to learn everything I can about every single online business model that there is out there. And of course, podcasting is becoming a big thing,
Right.
but it's probably where blogging was 10 years ago. So it's interesting to talk to a whole different number of podcasters to figure out, how they got into this, what they think about it, what their experience has been so far. Everybody seems to love their podcast. I haven't seen one person that says, no, don't do this, But in blogging, you're going to see people that will tell you that, it's going to be a waste of your time, or it's too much work, But, people do things for different reasons. So,
sure. Well, you're a natural interviewer, so I encourage you to follow through. You're going to do great.
Thank you. My background is in, I was in human resources as a recruiter, so I had to do interviews. And I went to law school and graduated. So some of the classes I took, we learned witness interviews, which is very different from, talking to people. I just like to hear what people have to say and where they're coming from.
That's great.
Going back to you, do you plan to monetize your podcast?
Yes, absolutely. I hope to transition away from pharmacy into full-time podcasting at some point. And to do that, we have to monetize the process. Now we're going to start with affiliate links,
okay,
which is recommended. And we're going to build our audience to the point where we can start doing more with email marketing. So that's kind of step one and step two. And then we'll see if we get big enough to garner the interest of any advertisers Those are kind of the three pieces that I see right now. And there may be other things that happen, but I think affiliate marketing will absolutely happen. It's already starting to happen a little bit now.
Yeah, I'm sure the sponsors will come. Your topic is really good. So tell me one thing that surprised you in setting up your podcast.
I suppose the thing that surprised me the most was how inexpensive it is to get started.
Oh, wow.
You really need very little equipment. You do need more time than anything else. And because I work full time, I just finished 6 days in a row. And, you know, I really wanted to do this every day. I wanted to put the headphones on and work here, but I had to go do my regular job. And, you know, just didn't have time to do much after hours. So the thing that surprised me was, number one, you can get into it with very little money. And number two, it's a time commitment that is a good thing. I want to do it. My desire is to spend all of my time in this little homemade studio that we have. And sometimes I get a little frustrated because I can't get in here as often as I want to.
That's interesting. Now, there's a lot involved in running a successful podcast, as I've come to learn. How do you tie it all together? I know there's so many different running pieces, you know, from talking to people, you know, and as I'm hearing, most people don't get past the 10th podcast because they get overwhelmed with all the, you know, the different things they have to do to run a successful podcast. How do you plan to, you know, keep all these moving pieces going?
Right. It's like juggling. You have to keep, you have to be somewhat, of a multitasker, really. The lucky thing for me is that my other job requires me to do that too. So as a retail pharmacist, I am constantly switching gears, and it's fairly chaotic. And as long as you keep a good list, and I have my pen and pad off screen here, as long as you keep a good list and a good calendar, to me, those are the keys. If you keep everything in one calendar and you keep one to-do list and you don't overwhelm yourself. As a matter of fact, Pat had a really good podcast that I listened to about, I can't remember if it was Ask Pat or Smart Passive Income, about how to keep a to-do list that's manageable, where you don't have 437 things. You might have, you know, the 3 things that you have to get done that day. And those are the things that you're going to focus on. And that's been a big help to me is learning how to use a to-do list without having to manage that every second of the day.
What advice would you give someone that's coming into podcasting?
You're never going to be ready. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. You're not going to be ready. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. And I think every podcast guru that I've heard has said the same thing. And I was shocked at how much I agree with them. Is get something on tape or digital recording and get it out there and get it posted. Don't wait for it to be perfect. Don't wait for the perfect guest. Don't re-edit it 47,000 times. Just do it, just like the Nike commercial says. And that was an adjustment for me, but it was the best thing I did.
I remember you said that it didn't cost much to get started. Right. What pieces of equipment would you recommend that, you know, somebody absolutely must have to get started?
You need a computer and you need a microphone. And those are the only two things that you absolutely have to have. And like I said, I use the Samson Q2U microphone. You can use that with different types of cables. It can go straight into your computer. And if you don't have more than one person speaking at a time, it works great just going directly into the computer. You can use the free software from Audacity and do a great podcast. It's that simple. So you can spend $65 and you're doing pretty well. Buzzsprout has free content up to a point, and it's free to post to iTunes and Spotify and those other things. So, you can do it for next to nothing to get started, or you could spend a couple of $1,000s and have a lot of fun and maybe accelerate your progress.
So what was your launch strategy?
Long-term strategy, I'm going to have about 4 or 5 podcasts. So how does one person keep all of that going? Well, I hope to be something of a producer and get some virtual assistants or maybe some part-time employees to help do some of the editing, some of the writing, maybe some of the marketing. Right now I pay a service. You can pay a service on Buzzsprout to do a transcript of your podcast, and I'm paying for that now. So, there are things that you can outsource, and you're not really sure which one's going to hit. I live in Kentucky. So, bourbon is a thing here. I think I'm going to have some buddies that are going to get together, and we're going to probably do a bourbon podcast. That sounds like a lot more fun than healthcare. And I can write off the cost of my bourbon. No, I'm just kidding. But, I'm going to do one of those. I'm going to do one about our hometown here. It's a small town, but I'm going to do kind of a hometown hero sort of a thing where it won't make money, but it'll get a big audience that may help me with passive income in other places down the road. So if I can build an audience with the local folks here, if I can get 5,000 followers pretty quickly, and I think I can with helping not-for-profits and, some of our charitable entities that we have here, I think I can build that pretty quickly. And then, I think my daughter and I would like to start a podcast together. I'm not sure what it's going to do, but I want to see what her generation likes to talk about. And are they going to sit down and listen to 30 minutes of a podcast? They're YouTubers, they spend 15 minutes and then move on to the next video. So we're going to test those waters as well. And somewhere one of those is going to hit and it's going to take off. And if it doesn't, we'll find another podcast and we'll just keep learning until we find the right thing for us.
Sounds good. Sounds interesting. Now, how do you plan to promote your podcasts?
So I think for now, we're going to try SEO as much as possible. Let's be sure that people can find us through searches on the internet. I don't really want to do advertising yet. I read kind of mixed messages there. I'm going to invite as many people as I can to be guests on our podcast. Thank you for letting me be on, for letting me talk to you.
Thank you for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So if we can share audiences, that's a great way to get organic growth.
Definitely. Well, got to the end of my questions. So I do really appreciate your accepting to come on and share a lot of wisdom. It's a whole complete different perspective, because I can see the passion and, you're all fired up and, ready to take this to the next level. And I wish you the very best with your podcast. And I wish you the best with all the other podcasts that you plan to do in the future too. So,
well, thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure. And I look forward to learning from you as we go forward.
Definitely. I'll let you know when this comes out.
Thank you so much.
Okay. You take care.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.